As I said, we want to have a reality base for the work we're going to do with you. So I want to talk about the reality of the life of a teacher. And this is based on an analysis I did of my life when I was a teacher. And I did this many, many years ago, and I've shared it with tens of thousands of teachers in many countries across the world. And I have a large file at home, initially of faxes and letters, but more recently of emails from people saying this has changed their life. So you're about to hear a potentially life-changing way of looking at your life. Here's how it emerged. I was the head of the science department in a large high school in Canberra. And it was the middle of the winter term and it was freezing cold. And I came home with a large pile of senior chemistry prac reports that I was going to mark that night. And I took them into my study at home, I put them on the desk, and I sat down and I looked out at the cold wintry afternoon, sort of dusk sort of time. I looked at the pile of senior chemistry prac reports, and you know what? I didn't feel like marking them. There they sat. And I thought to myself, I am feeling utterly exhausted. Utterly exhausted. Why am I feeling utterly exhausted? I'm a school teacher. I'd worked in open hearth furnaces, blast furnaces, coke ovens, rolling mills, much physically tougher places than a school. So why was this job killing me? I loved teaching. I was a good teacher. I really enjoyed it. But I was absolutely worn out, and it was only the middle of winter term. Half the year still to go. So I decided this cold winter evening in Canberra to do an analysis of my life as a teacher, to try and figure out what was happening to me. And here's what I found. The first thing I did was I thought, from the minute I get to school in the morning, about 8:15, to when I leave in the afternoon, about 4, I'm absolutely flat strapped. I'm like a lizard drinking. I'm just laid out flat. I haven't got a minute to spit. I'm working the whole time. I'm either teaching, I'm taking classes for other people who are away sick, or I'm completing the massive administrivia that I was given as a head of a science department in a school. So during the day, I don't have a minute. I'm just going the whole time. And when I get home at 4 o'clock, that's on the afternoons when I didn't have my karate group, or I didn't have my science club, or I didn't have my rugby team or my athletic squad. On the other afternoons, when I got home at 4 o'clock, I thought, how much of that time outside of school hours should I give to the job to be a conscientious teacher? Now, there's no right answer to this, but how much time should you give to your work to be really good as a teacher? Well, if you think like I do about the teacher you want for your own children, your own grandchildren, what I want is a teacher who goes home from school, cuddles their wife, plays with their children, strums their guitar, looks through their stamp collection, goes for a run, plays a game of squash, goes to a rock concert, goes to a symphony concert, makes their own clothes, makes beautiful patchwork quilts, reads novels, writes poetry. I want a teacher for my children and my grandchildren who is chewing into life, who's living a rich, full life of their own, who's got a wonderful family life at home. So they come into school full of the joie de vivre of a wonderful life they're leading. That's what I want in a teacher for my children or my grandchildren. Well, how much time can you give to your teaching outside of school hours and still be a rich, vibrant, growing human being? I thought long and hard about that this cold winter afternoon in Canberra, and I thought 12 hours a week. This is outside school hours. 3 hours, 3 nights a week, and a rainy half day on the weekend when I couldn't do stuff with the kids. 12 hours a week. I thought that would be a conscientious head of department in a school. Well, 12 hours a week becomes 48 hours a month. Everyone still with me? That's a New Zealand joke. If you spend half of your 48 hours a month, 24 hours a month, on your lesson preparation as a high school teacher, that gives you 10 minutes to prepare each lesson you teach. 10 minutes. That's what you've got. I worked in a university for 18 years in an education faculty, and my colleagues trained student teachers in how to spend 3 hours preparing a lesson. What? What? Where's that job? This is cloud cuckoo land. You have not got 3 hours to prepare a lesson. If you want to spend 3 hours preparing one lesson, you have to teach 15 totally unprepared lessons to make up for it. That is just the truth. I used to say to my student teachers, look, I don't mind you spending 3 hours preparing a lesson when you start with me, but by the time you graduate, you will know how to prepare quality lessons in 10 minutes, or I will cudgel you to death in the effort to learn it. Because if you don't know how to do it, the job will kill you. You'll spend all your time feeling guilty that you haven't prepared your lessons properly, or you're not a conscientious teacher. The truth is you've got 10 minutes. So I train student teachers, this is how you spend 10 minutes preparing a lesson. I also train them in how to teach totally unprepared lessons, which is what they'll spend a lot of their life doing. It's now quite infamous. It's called the 6-step lesson plan. It's the plan you make in the last 6 steps before you walk into your classroom. And if you want, I can send you the technique for how to do it, the 6-step lesson plan. Now, that's your lesson preparation. What about the other side of the equation? The other 24 hours a month. This is the time at home you spend on your students. This is, if your child is in my class, this is all of my thinking about your precious child. All of my marking of their work, all of my diagnostic work on how I'm helping them to grow and learn in science, all of my planning for individual children, all of my planning for groups of children. Well, as a high school teacher, I was commonly teaching 160 students. That gave me 9 minutes per child per month. If your child is in my senior chemistry class, I have 2¼ minutes a week at home to mark all your child's work at home. Think about your child, plan for your child, think about what I'm going to do to help your child develop. 2¼ minutes a week. That's the truth. It's a harsh truth, but it's a truth. I looked at the pile of senior chemistry prac reports I was about to start marking. And I thought, how long does it take me to mark one of these things? I didn't know. Being a researcher, I said, I'll mark 3 and I'll average it out and I'll find out how long it takes. So I marked 3 chemistry prac reports, making those deeply incisive comments that I was famous for as a chemistry teacher. The kids loved my deeply incisive comments on their prac reports. It took me, on average, 13 minutes to mark a prac report. I looked at the figure in front of me, 9 minutes per child per month. I looked at the pile of prac reports, 13 minutes a prac report. I looked back at the figure in front of me, 9 minutes per child per month. I looked back at the prac reports. I'm a slow learner. And suddenly it just hit me. Does not compute. If I've got 9 minutes at home for this child in a month, is the best way to spend that 9 minutes doing a quickie job of marking 1 prac report? You are joking. And that cold winter afternoon in Canberra, I made one of the best decisions I ever made as a teacher. I totally gave up the practice of taking home books and marking them. I believe that taking home books and marking them is the single greatest waste of time of anything that school teachers do. It is the single greatest killer of the lives of school teachers. It interferes with their family life for little benefit. The research on marking is clear. If you want to mark a child's work, the only place to mark it is in the classroom with a child sitting next to you. So you can ask them about their thinking behind why they wrote what they wrote. So you need to set up classrooms which allow you time to do your marking in class. I believe that marking is an ancient form of self-flagellation developed by the teaching profession. So what you do, end of the day, you grab your books, make sure no one's looking, sneak them into the car, put them on the back seat, cover them with clothes or towels or something, get home, sneak them into the house so no one sees you, hide them in your study, and then once the house is settled down, into the study you go and you start the marking. You pick up a book, whap, 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 bit of the old flagellation. Hey, I'm a good teacher. Whap, whap, whap. Oh, look at me. Whap, whap, whap. The blood's got to flow. Whap, whap, whap. You spend 3 hours marking. You're grumpy as all hell. You come into school and take it out on my kid the next day. Give me a break. Homework should be abolished. I was a single parent for 9 years with 4 children. The major arguments I had with my children were over homework, with me trying to convince them not to do it, and them saying, "But sir or miss will get angry." I'd say, "I'll write a note." "Don't write a note, Dad." "I'll come up to the school." "Please don't come up to the school, Dad." When my children come home, I do not need a school teacher telling me what to do. When my children come home, the class size is 1 to 4. I love my children to bits. I want to do my stuff with my children. I don't need you telling me what to do with my children. You've got my child for 13 years in school, from 9 to 3. If you can't do your job in 13 years, 9 to 3, find another job. I'm telling you. I've had up to here with what schools do to my kids and what they're doing to my grandchildren at the moment. The family is the primary educating force in the community, not the school. And schools need to get their noses out. I teach my children the most wonderful things, the things that only I can teach them. With my wife and I, we teach them wonderful things, same as we do to our grandchildren. That's our right as a family. We're happy to work with schools, but we don't need you telling us what to do. We don't need you to filling hours and hours of my child's life with the idea that somehow spending hours and hours and hours doing work that you might think is important is more important than our family and what we need to do. Have a turn and talk to each other about that. So here I am training student teachers in how to actually enjoy life and lead a balanced life. How to spend 10 minutes preparing a lesson, and how to do a lot of marking in class and arrange their classrooms such that they have time, quality time to think about individual children, and how to use their time at home really wisely. But as always with any calculation, there's a glitch. There's a glitch. I send my graduates out, they're talking to me, they're saying, "John, I'm having a great time." Other staff are saying, "Why are you so happy? Can't believe how relaxed and happy you are." And they say, "Oh, I'm doing the 10 minutes and 9 minutes. And they explain that to people. People saying, "Wow, I've never heard of that before." But they said there's a problem. It happened about the middle of the second term they were in the school. I got a series of phone calls which said, "John, there's a problem." And I said, "What's the problem?" They said, "Well, I've been sticking to the 10 and 9, going great, but then the other day in the staff room, the principal grabbed me." I said, "Yes." And they said, "Could I have a quiet word to you at the side of the staff room?" Go over the side wall with the principal, and the principal says, it's come to my attention that you haven't been taking home books and marking them. That's right, says fresh young graduate. I've made a professional decision to not take home books and mark them. Smile. The principal replies, you may think you've made a professional decision to not take home books and mark them, but in this school or the school or my school, you will take home books and mark them. What do we say to them? I said, whoops, let me call you back. I'll never forget. I was about to head to teach a third-year science curriculum class, and I walked into the class and I said, we've got a problem. And they said, what's that? And I said, the 10 minutes and 9 minutes. They said, no, what's the problem? And I told them about the problem with the principal. So I said, let's use some Edward de Bono lateral thinking strategies and come up with a whole range of ways in which you could deal with the principal. And we explored all sorts of options, and we created this magnificent technique. So this is a group of science curriculum students and myself developed this technique called the OGWO technique, O-G-W-O. It stands for O Great Wise One. So this is the O Great Wise One technique. So what you do when the principal says in this school or the school or my school, you will take home books and mark them, you say, oh, thank you for bringing that to my attention. I had a lecturer at university who hadn't been in a classroom for 15 years. You know the type? Oh yes, I know the type, says O Great Wise One. And you say, look, perhaps you could give me the benefit of your many years of experience. O Great Wise One under the breath. Certainly, says the principal. So they say, look, how long should I spend marking each child's work each week? Oh, that depends, says a Great Wise One. And you say, I know it depends, but can you just give me a ballpark figure, just to help me? Oh, well, the ballpark figure, bob, 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 says a Great Wise One. And you write it down. And you say, and look, lesson preparation, I'm not sure, how long should I spend preparing each lesson I teach? Just a ballpark figure. Oh, bob, 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 says O Great Wise One. We have a set of 8 O Great Wise One questions. And you ask the O Great Wise One questions, and when you get to the end, you multiply by the number of children you teach, the number of lessons you teach, and you get to the bottom, and I had to teach my students the look of mock horror. So you finish, and when you get to the bottom, you go, and the principal says, what's the problem? And you say, well, this comes to 500 hours a week. I don't have 500 hours. Give me a look at that, says a Great Wise One. And you let them stew in the juice of totally unrealistic expectations of what a teacher should do. Here are the 8 O Great Wise One questions. By the way, you can get a copy of all of these slides. I know some of you are trying to take photos and what. Rebecca can send you a copy of them. So everyone can get them if you want them, okay? So here are the 8 O Great Wise One questions. You say to them, how much time each week outside the classroom should a teacher spend marking a student's work, one student, planning and thinking about a student, giving feedback to a student or their parents, preparing a lesson, extracurricular activities, or professional reading? Every year, I'm invited to give the lead-off address at the First Time Principals program in New Zealand. This is a program that's designed for new principals. It's a fantastic program, and I believe we should have something like that in Australia. It's a really wonderful program. And the man who developed the program, a close colleague of mine, a guy called David Eddy, asked me to give this address in their first residential that they had, and I would do the O Great Wise One questions. After 2 years, David asked me, would I mind not doing it? But I have the figures from the first 2 years. This is every new principal in New Zealand, primary, secondary, middle school. Here's the figures we got from the 8 O Great Wise One questions. 27% of all new principals in New Zealand expect their teachers to spend over 1,000 hours a week working at home. Over 1,000 hours a week. 30% give you 500 to 1,000 hours a week. 20% give you 200 to 500 hours a week. 12% give you 100 to 200 hours a week. 5% give you 50 to 100 hours. And you'll be pleased to know that 6% will actually give you under 50 hours work at home on top of teaching. Are you kidding me? Why do you think there's a problem in the teaching profession? We're living in a dream world. Even a Minister of Education can do these calculations. Well, guess what? They don't like doing them. I don't care what the number is, seriously. You can say, I'm going to do more than 12 hours a week. Well, you do more than 12 hours a week. But what I want you to do is explain to your husband, your wife, your lover, your children, your friends, your family, what you're going to give up in your own life to do more than 12 hours a week work at home, on top of all your hard work at school. Give me a break. Choose your own poison. But what we need in the teaching profession is a dose of honesty. A big dose of honesty. Instead of this malarkey pretending that teachers can do all this stuff they can't do. Teachers walk around feeling guilty about the fact that they can't do what they could never do. When I did this calculation in Canberra, we had a heads of department meeting and I shared my calculation. My fellow heads of department weren't particularly impressed, particularly the head of the English department, who said to me, John, I'm sick of you whinging about how hard science teachers work. I said, whoa, wait a minute. This is for any teacher. She said, you're always complaining about how hard your teachers work. English teachers work much harder than science teachers. Normally I would let that go, but this afternoon I had my dander up. So we started heading back through the cloisters of this beautiful grammar school where I worked towards the staff room. And this woman's name was Sheila, she was English, and Sheila was nipping at me all the time. She said, in English, we mark one essay every week for every child. And I said, no you don't. She said, we do. I said, how long do you spend marking the essays? I guess you just do skip marking, do you, Sheila? No, we mark thoroughly. I said, really? How long do you spend on marking one? She said, I would say half an hour. Now, by this time we're in the staff room, and the staff can see Sheila and John are at it. We're sitting down at a low table, and the other staff are gathering around, you know, fight. They know it's on. Here's Sheila and John, they're on. And I say, half an hour, every kid, you're kidding me. She said, we do. I said, Sheila, you teach 160 kids. That's 80 hours of marking a week. Where do you find that, sweetheart? Now, Sheila wasn't particularly good at maths. But she sat there, you would not believe it. She sat there and she said, I get home at 4 o'clock. Here's what I do. I mark till 10 o'clock, 6 hours. And I'm seeing 6 sevens, 42, that's not enough. And she's calculated, in the end, she figured out how to get 80 hours. It was unbelievable. So it's midnight Sunday or 2 in the morning or something, and she says, there. And everyone in the staff room says, Sheila got him. She got him. She got the 80 hours. And I waited. You know, here's a chance to shaft someone. I waited and I thought, well, should I? Will I? Won't I? You know? Everyone's hanging to see me about to say something. And I waited and I said, when do you do lesson preparation, Sheila? Every minute in the week was gone. Every minute was gone. Are you kidding me? Look, I liked Sheila. No, seriously, I did. She was a good lady and she was a conscientious teacher, but she was a liar about the job. And people like Sheila who say they do that demean all of us because they make us feel guilty because we're not marking. You can't do it. Now, that was a tough thing to do to someone. A tough thing to do to someone. But we need toughness in the profession. We also need toughness when we talk about the profession to other people. As I said, I spend a significant amount of my time now working in the corporate sector and working in high performance sport. And when people introduce me, they say, you know, Dr. Edwards was this, and he was a high school teacher, and you see them go, oh God, we've got a schoolie. A lot of business people do that, you've got a schoolie. And sure enough, and I just say, and proud of it, if I hear them, they go, woo, schoolie that's proud of it. Morning tea comes, and there's always one. You know them? Sharp businessman who knows how to fix us all up. There's always one will come up to me and say, hey, listen, next time with a group of school teachers, I can tell you how to fix that lazy lot up. And I say, oh, look, great. Let me make a few notes. And again, everyone gathers around. This guy putting the school in his place. And I say, look, how long do you think a teacher should spend? And I ask them the Ogwo questions. And I get to the bottom, and I say, geez, got a problem here. This comes to 1,000 hours a week. Everyone goes, hey, the schoolie got him. The schoolie got him. But they have a comeback. And it's always the same boring, predictable comeback, and you know what it is. What about the holidays, they say. Now, here's the moment you wait for. What about the holidays? What you do is never ever say, oh, we work so hard we need the holidays. Come on, don't ever say that. That's nonsense. You only have holidays to give the kids a break from you lot. Come on, so they can become sane again. So never say we work so hard. What you do is when they say, what about the holidays? Just stand slowly, stand to your full height. Take 2 slow, deep breaths, because you're about to shaft this person in public. So, The holidays, they're a perk. They say, what? I say, a perk. You know, company cars, company phones, you know, perks. The holidays are a perk. And they say, they're a bloody good perk. I say, listen, they're so good a perk, you should become a school teacher and you can get the perk too. Well, guess what? Not one engineer, not one nuclear physicist, not one sporting coach has ever taken me up on the offer. And what I say is if you want the perk, you do the work. It's morning tea time. Go and have morning tea. We'll start again at 10:15.